What's up, RK Gene and Dylan and Dot? Jose Manuel, how are you? Katan, Clyde, welcome to everybody also who are joining on YouTube and TikTok and X and Twitch. Twitch, yes. Welcome everybody to Simulation Talk 103. I'm going to give a couple more minutes for people to arrive. Thank you for the likes, guys. I appreciate you. Thank you, Jose. Appreciate you, man. Okay. What's up, Reckon 1999 underscore 1. Kenzie, Robert, Marmaj, Jeb, Thickeny. That is some handle. Scott is in the house. What's up, Kyla? Nanny. Okay. Laura Miller is in the house. Tyler. Okay. So welcome everybody to Simulation Talk 103. This channel is usually revolved around the simulation hypothesis to all the newcomers. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found actual proof that we live in a simulation. A few years ago, I discovered that if you project a diffracted laser on a surface and ingest a specific molecule that we cannot really name on live chat, you will see code running in surfaces. This observation has now been substantiated over 1,000 times worldwide and has connected me with some of the leading researchers in the field. Not all of them agree with me in my conclusions, but this is an ongoing conversation we're having, and I think it's an important one at that. We meet here every single day to discuss the discovery, the implications, as well as science in general, religion, spirituality, philosophy, whatever comes to mind. And is it Tunnel? Ional? I'm not sure how to read the handle. But saying, I think this is as good as it gets. Are you referring to this life? I mean, I agree with you. I think it's pretty incredible. My trajectory through this space was definitely not from wanting it to be true or searching for it. I had to follow the evidence and basically accept what I saw. Not so much rejoice that I found what I wanted. Welcome. So, I've seen the cone without the laser. I wonder if it looks the same. That is a great question, Pammy. Usually it is not, at least from my experience with people. My regulars would know that I always say that what you just said is the most common message or email that I get, that people either see the code without the laser or without the molecule or both. And usually when we drill down to it, it is not the same code, which is interesting. The code in the laser seems to be very insistent, consistent, and really independent from anything that the individual is doing. How are you, APOC? And the code that people see without usually has slightly different properties. It's more subsumed in surfaces. It's a little bit more malleable and more responsive to what you want it to be. Not always, but very often. And it's also softer in a sense. It's not so rigid in its insistence to be what it is. But of course, who knows? There might also be people who see the exact same code. So this would be interesting to investigate. And if you want to write some details about it, you can always email me to lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Pammy is also saying, oh, sorry, it's the same message that I've already read. Let's see what we got here. I get disappointed too when love is not what I dreamed. Interesting. Well, I'm not saying love or not love. Certain things fall within other purviews of understanding in the world. I think then the 10 milliwatts laser reflection are affecting my eyes. Oh, I never said 10 milliwatts view for fun. I said 5 milliwatts and never above 5 milliwatts. So that's exactly my point. I think love is the capability that beings like us bring to the world, and it's a beautiful one. But there's also the realistic element of what other things in the world are. And it's not a binary. It's not a either love or not love. And I think that certain domains of understanding allows us to create a more comfortable world in which we can express more love. So it can be love indirectly. For example, when you're busy being chased by wolves, as it was for a big chunk of human history, it's kind of hard to worry about being able to express love to its full capacity and its full glory. But when you create a more comfortable world, you can. And that comfortable world rests on some basic understanding of what's possible, what's impossible, geometries, and things that work. So I definitely don't think that these things are binary. TJ saying, wanted to ask last time I missed your live, have you ruled out that the effect is coming from manufacturing artifacts and the lasers that are magnified when projected out? Yes, TJ, thank you for the question. It's immediately ruled out by the fact that when you move the light, the code is not moving with the light. It stays exactly where it was and doing exactly what it was doing. In other words, it must be in the surface. Reckon1999 is saying, what happened with Psychonaut? You were going to send him a laser for free and he was going to try and see the code. This was 11 months ago. Has he tried it yet? This 11 months ago, I definitely don't remember what was done or said. Who is Psychonaut? Remind me. Ambient Glass said, yo, have you tried to shine a laser into the earth or a tree? I feel like you need to keep testing the laser on different things. I will, but I don't think that what we call natural elements would make the difference, actually. And yet, all of the stuff that you just mentioned were tried, and the code is the same. He was the guy who made a video about you, and you later joined him on the channel. Oh, you're talking about Rob? Yeah, I sent him a laser. He tested it. He emailed me that he finds it interesting, but it wouldn't necessarily just yet fall under outside of what he would think that would be possible. But he said, I will give you that it's very interesting. Let's keep the conversation going. That was the last interaction around that. But since then, we actually had another conversation that he hasn't released yet. And I know it's because he was doing a lot of personal growth stuff. I know he was traveling and doing some ceremonies and things like this. And we communicated last time, I want to say maybe almost 2 months ago. And we have a very positive interaction. So when he comes back from soul searching and all of that, then I'm sure he might release the episode that he didn't release yet, and also we're probably going to talk more in depth about that. So yeah, definitely. I sent him the laser. APOC Refi saying, I understand you discovered this publicly, but have you pondered the possibility they already knew about it? So yeah, I don't know who you mean by they, but according to the beings in the space, no, nobody else knows about it. Depending on how seriously you want to take their word for it. Use AI to reverse engineer the code. Well, you have to feed it into AI first, and that will be a challenge, at least in this part of the game. But these are really great comments, guys. Thank you. Rick is saying, Jesus Christ, are you? Are you? Are you? And Rick Balboa said, I am. There you go. ZeraQI is saying, hi, could you tell how it all begun? What was the starting point? Thank you for the question, Zara. That is what the documentary is going to be about. Going in detail on kind of describing what led me to the discovery and understanding and how it all came to be. But actually, right now we're in San Francisco, and we were just at a really beautiful event ran by Andres Gomez. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but he is the head of the Qualia Research Institute, and he has some very interesting theoretical frameworks around consciousness in general. That's why we came here to interview him. We were at one of his events, and it was beautiful. There was a lot of great people, very interesting people. And the reason I'm saying it is because part of what became apparent to me during making of the film is that even though the story is kind of interesting, because it's unorthodox and it has at least what I'm claiming to be a pretty big discovery at the center of it, but ultimately the payoff there is very momentary. So even if the movie is interesting to people about like this kind of like thing out there, discovery, whatever, the payoff is very small in comparison to what the real thing is, right? And so now we're trying to think of how to frame the film in a way that will make people understand that they're basically a part of it. This is something that is happening to all of us as humanity, either people understand it or not. And some people experience these changes personally. Some people maybe a little bit less, but they understand that something global is happening. So we're trying to frame it in a way that is both not as too esoteric, so it's not like kind of like this very flowy thing that doesn't really land anywhere. I personally find these kind of narratives are very unsatisfactory. But at the same time, we want to make sure that people truly feel that this is about us as humans, not just about my story and how it happened. And it is a challenge. It's an artistic challenge because when you're trying to make something like that, everything that could have been said about that was said about that, right? You're not going to reinvent the wheel. Like if you take Jesus's teachings, if you take everything the Buddha said, if you take everything that Instagram said, I mean, all of this was said. Like we all know the stuff, right? Be kind, focus, be in the moment, be in the now, focus on the small things in life. We all know the memes. But how do you drive the point home in a way that truly lands, like really, really sticks and says, no, guys, like this is it. Like we're going through some major, major transformations right now. And even this, like even the words that I'm saying right now, they somehow fall short. They're almost inert. There's not enough power behind them. And this is where Aaron Vanden, the director, that's where his talent comes in, because his ability to tell a story visually and makes you feel something in that moment is very strong. He has incredible talent. So I'm very happy that we're doing this together. And really, I feel like it's more, I'm just kind of tagging along for his vision. And yeah, so that's, I guess, to the extent that when people ask me, okay, how did I came up with it? The actual details they take some time to tell because it's a process that happened over years. But ultimately, I really want to emphasize the fact that it happened right now is not a coincidence, and many people experience very special things right now, and I know that, and I'm aware, and I'm meeting these people, and to the people who are not aware, we want to make them aware. So that's I'm pretty sure it's much more than you asked me, but that's the answer. And thank you for the likes. I appreciate that. And by the way, everything same goes for YouTube and X and Twitch. If you guys are enjoying the live, if you guys can like the live, it definitely helps the algorithm. Let me answer some of the questions on YouTube as well. You ever heard of non-local communication with photons? Non-locality is a known effect in physics, yes. Hey, nice to meet you. What does the code look like? It is in numbers and letters. Thank you for the very simple question, Chill Factor. It's easy to answer, so I'm happy to answer. It's kind of looks like a hybrid between Japanese and Hebrew, combined with some regular numbers that we know. Now again, and this is important to emphasize, and I always do, these are just guidelines. So it's not exactly like any of these things. It's more like an alien language. I did the night shift podcast yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? I think yesterday. It was a lot of fun. You guys should go check it out. Actually, there was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. And usually they're focused on UFOs, but we kind of talked about it, and they allowed me to tell the story from my perspective, and it was beautiful. So Night Shift was the podcast, and there we kind of talked about the language, if there's anything like that we've seen before, and I couldn't think of the name of it back then, but now Aaron reminded me. Actually, it's the carrot story from the Palo Alto, when somebody claimed that they worked on this drone, alien drone of some sort. Now, either the story was fake or not, I don't know, but the characters in that article or paper, whatever you want to call it, that are shown in the diagrams, it's almost identical. Like, it really looks kind of like that. So you can just look carrot. I think, wait, carrot is with a C or with a K? Hold on. I think with a C. It doesn't really help me that I'm completely dyslexic. It was really funny. Can't find it. Well, it is carrot spelled somehow. Maybe somebody can help me here. Hello, then. I'm intrigued as a new listener. The laser shows codes. What I don't know is, do you need the hallucinogen also? At the moment, it seems that yes, and I guess the misleading part is that we call it a hallucinogen, when in reality, it's at this point, it's most likely the case that these are not hallucinations. So that's the short answer. Have you heard of people who seek enlightenment or achieve it cannot trip on the molecule of dose? I wonder if a Buddha could see the code. Great question, but considering the fact that I don't know if there's any enlightened people on the planet at the moment, I don't know how to test this. And also, don't forget that a lot of the claims on these spaces of enlightenment and all of these spiritual achievements very often are exaggerated and suffer from a large degree of hyperbole. So I think it's kind of difficult to decide these things. Most of the times, things are much kind of like more mainstream than these magical things. I do theoretical physics and have fascinating with photons and molecule. I pose one of the frameworks to quantum thought theory. The eyes are the only part of the brain that's exposed. Can we schedule a call? Sure, Lark. I mean, I'm always down to have a good conversation regardless. You can always email me to lasersimulationx@gmail.com and we can set something up. Simulationx@gmail.com. So that's my email. You can just email me. Hi Dan, just wondered if a video recording of the laser on a surface produces the same effect. Yes. If so, would you consider uploading a video of one? I mean, sure, but I think it's, you know what? Enough people ask me to do that, so I will. But the truth is that it doesn't really matter. Like, you can just record any laser, diffracted laser on the surface and then see it. It's not like that particular laser has any magical properties. What does the trick is the being in an alternate state. Night shift, nice, my friend. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a fun conversation. I've been hallucinating naturally 24/7 for the last 10 years. I am intrigued. Whoa. Okay, that's intense. I am disabled by permanent schizophrenia. Oh man, I'm so sorry. Which is like permanent trip. First of all, I'm really sorry you're going through this. I know this must not be easy to live with that. Are your hallucinations visual as well? Or mostly visual? Thank you, Zara QI. I appreciate you. A lot of beautiful energy coming from your direction. I appreciate that. Could AI be running the simulation? I think it depends on what you mean by AI. I think if you're asking if it's automated, of course it has to be automated. There's no point of running something of that scale that you need to tend to all the time. When does the documentary come out? Well, we are working on it, and it's a budget question. And by the way, if anybody feels like they can contribute and have the possibility without doing that without a problem, you You can always follow either the link tree in my description to the GoFundMe page, or go to Dango Thoughts on YouTube, DANGO Thoughts, which, by the way, also contain all the longer videos on these subjects. And under the regular trailer, you would have the link to GoFundMe. But it depends on the amount of budget. If more budget, faster. Less budget, less fast. That's all. So I would say anytime, anywhere between 4 months to almost a year. If we actually not going to find a budget, which I don't believe that's going to be the case. I think some people are pretty interested. So hopefully within the next 6 to 7 months. Let me see what we got here. How we carry on normal. Well, it seems to be not a problem. Like surprisingly, it's not really interfering with your regular life, because it doesn't mean you're fake. It just means that under the laws of physics, there's this computational layer that is ran by a more advanced civilization. So the claim is out there, and if proven to be true, I mean, I'm claiming that it is, but if proven for others that it is true, then yeah, there's like a reformulating reality a little bit, is in order. But ultimately, nothing is that different in the immediate future. Like you live your life, and the laws of physics are still the laws of physics. It's just that underneath those, you have a larger computational system. Do we actually have free will? Well, free will, I don't think, comes for the ride with or without a simulation. I actually don't think you can describe any coherent world in which free will even makes sense. So I don't believe we have free will regardless to the simulation hypothesis. There are many that don't care. They don't care about what? They don't care about what specifically? What do I think about Kozyrev mirrors? Not sure. I haven't tried it, so it's hard to say. Year 2022, 3 people won Nobel Prize in Science for proving that reality is not locally real. Yeah, which is a little confusing to me, because we've known this for 100 years. Like, that whole story was a little confusing to me. Like, this was not news by no stretch of the imagination. Thanks, yes, but it would just give people... Thank you so much, Anne. I appreciate you. But it would just give people an easy option for reference. I agree, but it does exist in almost all the videos that I put out on the subject. So, But you mean just a video of just the laser? Yeah, that's reasonable. You hope to replicate my experiment? So basically, Tellurian, you're saying that because you're hallucinating all the time, you think that you might be able to see it without any molecule, right? You just project the laser. Because I'll be honest with you, if you do have schizophrenia, I don't know if I would recommend to do DMT, the molecule. So just throwing it out there. You got to be very careful with that stuff. But I would actually love to know some of the details. Are you seeing usually visual hallucinations on a regular basis? Is that what the nature of your condition is? Crow is saying year 2022, 3 people. Okay. Why is it a bad idea to test this at night? Insects? Not that it's a bad idea, is that you don't know who's going to be running the experiment, right? So I prefer to put it in a time where novices and people that are experienced would not have a hard time. First of all, in the day, your brain has more energy, so it's easier to actually do, just like sit there. When you get really tired, it's very taxing on the brain, so you get exhausted. It's kind of hard to do. You can't focus. There's a lot of reasons why not. But also, yeah, at night you have other kinds of energies that come out to play. And there's nothing wrong or bad about them. It's just that they're of a different nature. And if you're not experienced with the molecule, especially when you're tired, it might not be the most pleasant experience. And this is why certain people are experts in holding space and doing all of that stuff. So there's many reasons for that. And that's why I recommend to usually do it during the day. Not news, it just proved to be scientific facts. But it was facts from 100 years ago, is what I'm saying. Did you hear of the guy who had a brain injury and is now seeing the code 24/7? No, I haven't heard the guy. Are you talking about Tom Matt? Because I don't know if he's saying he's seeing the code. He's saying something that is akin to what I see as the console, I think, which is a very interesting case. But maybe you're talking about somebody else. How does consciousness fit into the simulation theory? Well, I think the consciousness is fundamental. And what consciousness looks like from the inside is what we experience at the moment. And what consciousness looks from a third person perspective is computation. That's how it fits, in my opinion. Kasha is saying, hi Dan, DMT, I have to stop saying this word. The molecule is not available in India. Is there any other way to move forward with laser experiment? Unfortunately, it's hard for me to answer that. At the moment, I don't know of any other way to do it. Actually, well, mushrooms would work, but you need at least 3.5 grams. You need more powerful dose. Aya would work as well. What is the reaction to APOC? Have I seen the machine elves? I see a lot of different kinds of beings. It's hard for me to know what people think, which one of them are the machine elves. Accidental genius, traumatic brain injury allows Carmel man to see the world in mathematical art. Interesting. No, I've never heard of that about this. Let me see. Accidental genius. It's crazy that it doesn't allow you to just copy, right? It's kind of crazy. Traumatic brain injury allows. Wait. Oh, let me just take it here. There we go. Where is the thing? Oh, here it is. To see the world in mathematical art. All right, I'll read it. Oh, okay. I did hear about this guy. This is a long time ago. Yeah, not sure. I don't remember him ever mentioning codes, but definitely something to look into. I remember this guy. Yeah. That's a long time ago. I'm not going to take them all. Okay, hold on. Carmel man. Yeah, I remember him. The machine elves are described by anyone that. Oh no, I'm familiar with the code, Rich. With the word, with the term, Richard. Terence McKenna was one of my favorite thinkers of all time. So I'm familiar with with these types of description of entities, but because of the ecology that I see, and it's so diverse, it's kind of hard for me to really think what people mean when they say they see them, because I think that when you start seeing the granularity of these different beings, you start to understand the true differences between them. And I feel like maybe what people mean by the machine elves is a bit of a caricature of something that is much more discernible. Does that make sense? Maybe that's why I'm having a hard time with it. I'm not going to make the molecule. I'm not going to take the molecule. I need the laser maybe and mount also. I'm unaware of any other permanent parameters of the experiment. Yeah, you just need a diffracted laser and make sure that it's not about 5 milliwatts. If you go to codeofreality.com, all the specs of the lasers are there. Feel free to get one separate from anywhere you would like. Just make sure that the specs are the same. That's all. I had something similar to an NDE happen to me as a child. I saw lines of light connecting everything, and within the light was data. Interesting. Kasha Naturals saying, "Hi Dan, there is a scientist named MT Kashi who provide real life transmutation of DNA, which opens our perception to higher dimensions." MT, you mean MD Kashi? What is MT Kashi? Hold on. Yeah, I don't. Maybe was that a typo? I'm trying to find it and I can't really. But yeah, I completely agree that it's been proven countless times. It just comes down to the public forgetting. Well, no, that's the weird part. The people who receive and give the Nobel Prize was it? Wait, was it the Nobel Prize? It was the Nobel Prize. Yeah, are not the public. It's the scientific community. That's what I mean. That's the weird part. That the scientific community knew about it for 100 years, and then they decided after 100 years to call it a fact. That's the weird part. Have you been able to manipulate the code so far? No. Yeah, it was doing a long time ago. From what I remember, he was saying not just art, it was art mode of lines of code when he would look into them and close. Yeah, it's a bit too esoteric for me, to be honest with you. I need to see something a lot more specific. I know of that story though. Although there is a guy named in Russia by name Gregory Krabovoy. He is a mathematician and he heals problems by it, any via numbers and codes. I'm not sure what that even means. I understand what you're saying, but like it truly is. I'm not sure what it means that he heals people with math. Reminding me of what you have discovered. I see. If there's a code, I would have it to assume you are saying mathematical expressions. Not really. You just see a relational behavior of some sort. Foundation. Your video about the console. Can you tell us what you've been able to see with it? I'm working on a new video about the console, and that's what's going to be in the new video, including more details about the menus and all of that. Okay, so let me do some comments from TikTok because we have. So somebody already asked me about the Kozyrev mirrors. I answered that I've never done them, so it's hard for me to comment. And by the way, if you guys want to come on and chat, no problem. You just have to tell me what the subject matter is, what you would like to talk about, and then I'll bring you on. Advice on picking a career. Make sure that it's something that you don't mind doing every single day. Good morning from Utrecht. Where's that from? What's up, Miriam? Good to see you. How about a free will in a simulated world, reincarnation, levels to access to escape the matrix? So the proposition is not that we're stuck inside of some kind of a computational system, but the world itself is a computational system. So there is no escaping it. It's kind of like saying escaping the laws of physics. That's not a thing that anybody is thinking about because that's not a possibility. The proposition is that the world at large at the bottom of that matrix. Please read what you DM'd me. Well, not now during a live, that's for sure. I can't do it during a TikTok live. Neutrino. And also, just so you know, I've only today noticed that there's like, I don't know how many, like 50 or I think close to 100 maybe requests of like messages on TikTok. I don't ever, almost never check my social messages. That's why there's no response. If you want to contact me, the fastest way is email. And that will be lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Again, it's lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Put it in the comments. Yeah, I'll put it in the comments. All right, there you go. You have it in the comments. Why do particles behave differently when you know they're being observed? Because by know, that they don't know they're being observed, and they're not being observed. By observe in physics, we mean we bang another particle into them. That's how they know they're being observed. So they change their behavior according to the bang that they receive. So that's essentially the uncertainty principle. And some insist that it is not so much the fact that now they are in a different state than what they were, but there's some fundamental quality that simply doesn't exist in any real sense until they're being observed or smashed or like being interacted with. I'm not so sure that's a coherent way of seeing it, but it is a complicated topic. But in general, just so you know, that at least in physics, when people say particle knows when it's being observed, it's not like the particle knows you're looking at it in the room. It's that you throw something at it. So naturally, when something hits it, that's how you know that it's there, by the way. When something, because you can't see it with light because it's too small, it's a particle. So when you hit it with something, then it changes. There you go. It changes either the trajectory or it changes the momentum or location. And the more you know its momentum, the less you know its location, and vice versa because of that. That's the uncertainty principle. Now, there is this thing that people talk about with the double-slit experiment, which is also, I think, a little confusing to people, because people think that when we look with our eyes, then somehow the particle collapses, and then all of a sudden the wave function collapses and it becomes a particle. That's not what's happening. And an easy way to illustrate it is that you are also looking with your eyes when it is a wave. You're looking in both cases. So it's not your eyes. There's a device, a photon detector, that sits on the other side of the slits. And only when it's on, like detecting, then somehow the wave knows to behave like a particle, which is weird, but it's not quite the same as a person looking at it. Now, with all of that, I will add that Dean Radin released a research that he did in 2015 and since was replicated quite a few times, in which he was designing the double slit experiment to specifically see if, in fact, conscious being can actually influence the experiment. And he discovered that yes. But it is important to mention both of these things because until he did that, there was nothing that actually said that that is the case. And just because you guess something correctly ahead of time does not vindicate that assumption. And that should be very important, because if you do it that way, then we wouldn't have science. The reason we have science is because you very concretely measure something very, very specifically. And I know it sounds a little soulless and like, not as like, what we would like to be the more relevant thing. But I think this ability to do things this way is also very important. It's the reason you and I can talk right now. If people wouldn't do things in this way, like a very rigorous way that checks what works and what doesn't, you would not have a phone, we would not have a computer, we would not be able to talk right now. So, and I'm very grateful for the fact that we can. I once saw a very large number of colorful geometrical figures. They changed in less than a second. Thank you for sharing it. Elaborate on the laser thing. Not sure what you mean by that because that's very general. If you ask me something more specific, I can definitely do that. Do higher people know about this? Well, I have pretty high caliber people reaching out to me now, so at this point, they're becoming aware of this, yes. It's an experiment when they behave like a wave versus a particle. Yeah, so I hopefully, hey grandma, good to see you. Hopefully this, what I said after, clarified it as well. What do you observe and destroy simultaneously? I'm not sure if was this a question or is there a dimension higher than this one? I would say yes, absolutely. Okay, let's see what we got here on YouTube. There's a lot of fun comments here, I see. Okay, let's see. I would imagine the brain under the molecule is transposing the energy geometry into mathematical relational behavior. Seems like a rough description to wrap around seeing code. If I have to take your comment on some level that I think you mean it, is that you're saying that somehow the molecule changes the brain in such a way that we should notice a departure in the way that the brain behaves in a way that is measurable, which we can then express in mathematical relationships. Is that about the lines that you're asking? Because you can describe anything through mathematical relationships, because you can map on any topology or behavior or relational values through mathematics. I guess the short answer, if that's what you meant with your question, is yes, sure. There should be a state in which should be able to do that. And in fact, we do have numerous tools at the moment by which we're doing that. I'm trying to see the relevance to specifically to the why would that apply more to what I'm talking about with the laser and the observation with the molecule versus anything else that we measure with the brain. Crow is saying, in my younger stupid days, I inhaled large amounts of butane-like gas and would see flashing red lines overlaid on top of everything. I wonder if this is more than just brain cells dying. No, I think that might be that, actually. The entire known cosmos is all a part of one. Sure. Is this possible that we are in someone's body? Yes, possible. I like the theory on us essentially being plugged into the sim. We're here, but we're seated elsewhere. You like that? A lot of people would not like that. If what you are seeing is beyond our current mathematical comprehension, then why can't we think beyond the laws of physics to explain the phenomena? You're asking why we can't do something that we can't do? I'm not sure, because we can't do it yet, because we can't figure it out. But I'm trying to also understand the spirit of your question. I'm not really sure that what I found is beyond our mathematical comprehension. I think it's just not enough people who have the technical skills are taking it seriously enough yet to like go full in and investigate. I think that's really the main impediment. All in one, all is one is all. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you. That's really nice of you. It takes, if take into account how galaxies look in like parts of our inner self, we are a part of a larger organism that is alike a cell with the body that is working towards. Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, what happened with the two guys that could not see the code in the laser? Are there more instances of people not being able to see? There's always some instances of people having a hard time. Actually, the other day we had somebody here, Casey, who came on and said that he was trying for months and he couldn't do it. And then we talked about it a little bit, and then he tried it, and then the next day he came back and he said, I saw it, Eureka! And I asked him what changed, and he said, well, to be honest, I don't think I was following the protocol. I was too lazy. So sometimes it's that simple. Waves are what things do, not what they are. Exactly. This is secret CIA operation working on the background via all electronic devices and everything on Earth. Every city is designed like a motherboard. Their laziness all over Earth. If you're giving that much faith in the government entity, I don't know what to tell you. The government is one of the most incompetent entities that exist. Since seeing the code doesn't seem to actually be hallucination and the molecule is required, it really reminds me of a new Apple show called Dark Matter, since they need the med to enter the box. Yeah, I think they are to a large extent talking about some of these molecules. Your question was in relation to simulation theory. About the two guys, or I understand. Oh, the question before. So I understand that you're asking about the simulation theory. I just don't understand the spirit of the question, because I never said that what I found is outside of mathematical comprehension. And I don't know what you mean by why can't we think beyond the laws of physics to explain the phenomenon. Oh, I see. You're asking basically if the simulation is more fundamental than the laws of physics, in which case the answer is absolutely yes. And we have thought that. It's not a new idea at all. I mean, Wheeler famously coined the phrase it from bit because he was thinking about this a lot. That it makes a lot more sense to think of the fundamental thing as computation and then the laws of physics arising out of that. Are you approaching the double slit experiment as an atomist? What is an atomist? Somebody who believes in atoms? Is that what you mean? Why did I see geometrical figures? What was that? There's a lot of ways to explain that, Anne. In fact, the person we met today, you can look him up, Andres Gomez. Andres Gomez. And if you just do Andres Gomez Harvard, you should find a very interesting lecture in which he's talking about the topology of hyperbolic planes and how we can explain all of these visuals in terms of the amount of energy that is required to fold these topological surfaces into hyperbolic planes. So I would highly recommend that lecture. It might help you make some sense of what you saw. Andres Gomez. Hi, Katie, thank you. Andres Gomez, Harvard lecture. Someone that believes that nature is duality, atoms are both wave and a particle, that's an atomist. Got it. So I think that whatever the underlying structure is neither a point nor a wave. It is some kind of a hyperstructure that allows for these apparent functionalities to be arising properties that from a three-dimensional manifold, four-dimensional manifold with time, appear as they are to us. People believe in ether, say the double slit is the constructive and destructive interference within the ether. I don't know who believes in the ether. Do you know any scientists who believe in the ether? Ibn heard the same sound and went into the waiting room where was told that it's not my time. Wait, did you say something before? Oh, I see. I had a near-death experience when involved in a car accident, needed to be revived. Whoa, I'm sorry you went through that. I seen the same entities that I seen when I had the molecule for the first time. Even heard the molecule, the same sound, and went, okay, now I understand. After I had the molecule first time, I was welcomed back, but they were confused as to how I got there. Interesting. Tesla definitely didn't believe in the ether, just so you know. Read Tesla himself, not people who talk about Tesla. Or at least not in the oversimplified version of the ether. I mean, we understand that space-time is something. The idea of the ether was very, very specific, and the attributes that were attributed to it, we a long time measured that they just don't match what we see. So it's not like anybody has a problem with the word ether or what it represents. It's just that the concept of the ether represents a set of properties that the universe does not exhibit. It's that simple. Here, I'll help you. I'm trying to find the, no, I don't really see it. Okay, yeah, I can't find it at the moment, but, so the only thing I can tell you is, so basically if you look for, what's the name of it? Oh, it's on my phone, that's why, okay. So if you look, so there's only a handful of things that we have today that were written in a more, accessible to the public way by Tesla himself. One of them is a biography that he wrote that I read. I highly recommend you read that because you will understand a lot more about who he really was, how he was thinking. And I assure you that all of this very modern way of talking about Tesla was not who he was. He could not stand, he couldn't stand the whole, talking about things in these like super esoteric ways. Like he couldn't stand it. In fact, he did not, he very openly said that he denied a very large chunk of money because the people who offered it to him were talking like that. So I assure you that this is not something he was interested in. Tesla was a very outside of the box thinker. He was a genius man, and he had the ability to see things very, very vividly, visually. All of that is true. He also said that yes, if you really want to understand the secrets of the universe, you have to look at frequency and the way that fields behave. So that, but that's not a outlandish idea. It's a very, very good idea, and we're using it in quantum field theory. But also, just in general, and by the way, just I don't really know. Hold on. What is theory of hypothesis? Is that a book? Is it something he wrote? Because I'm not familiar with that. So I would gladly read it. But if it's anybody else, then like I said, read what he wrote, not what somebody else said or wrote. And what I can tell you is that just simply on the surface of what it is, you don't even need to talk about Tesla or anybody else. All of these, they're just people, right? Ether is a concept. It's a word attached to a set of attributes, right? I can call it banana. It doesn't matter what you call it. If these sets of attributes is not what we measure it to be, that word and with all the concepts gets set aside as a checked hypothesis that didn't work. That's all. There's no conspiracy around. Nobody's hiding anything. There's just what we understand about what happens in the world and what doesn't. The ether was an idea that just didn't work because it didn't connect with a lot of things that we measured. You can talk about dark energy that is part of some kind of a functionality of deeper space-time, and you can talk about virtual particles, which is basically a set of interactions that we see the effect of, but we know they happen in a time that is smaller than the Planck time, which means that we can never measure them even in principle. All of these things we can talk about and we have experiments to actually verify that this happens to some degree. And you can talk about Wolfram's new theoretical model that includes atoms of the universe itself. So like particles that make up space-time itself, which is different than particles in space-time. And they're a lot smaller than the particles that we know. And according to that frame, everything, including the geometry of space-time, including all the interactions between the forces and all the interactions of the particles that exist, all are a product of the aggregation of these tiny particles of space. So all these frames, they work to a certain degree, and some of them were verified, some of them were not verified, but they're a lot more promising because they connect to things that we can actually see. The ether is just a concept that existed that just doesn't check out. That's all. Yeah, these are, so everything you're describing right now, Richard, these are like early ideas that Tesla played with a lot of ideas that were kind of like, he was always playing with these conceptual frameworks. You need to understand who the man was, and it will be much easier for you to understand what things he actually entertained in a very serious manner, what other things he said as things that he postulated that he later discarded. There's a lot of little details there that really matter. From what I understand about the man, from reading him and understanding his kind of attitude towards life, he would not be down with 90% of what people say about him in modern times. That's my impression of that. If it's the name of a YouTube channel, then why would it matter? Why would I care about what somebody on YouTube said about Tesla when I can read him? I don't care who studied Tesla extensively. People are fallible, and I prefer to read the person myself. I don't care who studied Tesla. I only trust my own brain to read the person we're actually talking about. I'm reading all your comments. Hold on. Thank you so much, Joanne. You had a comment earlier about comparing what folks are seeing. Don't you think it's worth it to write down code and compare it to see if all... Sure, and people did. You mean, so from what you, again, I haven't watched the channel, Richard, so I can't comment. And if I'll even do you one better, I'll watch. Wait, is that Ken Wilber? Dude, this guy is insane. Sorry, this guy's crazy. It's like 100% is out of his mind. I've seen a couple of his videos. He's out of his mind. But if it's not him, I'll watch the whatever this is. From what you're describing to me right now, it sounds like this channel is not about Tesla, but about what somebody's beliefs are about Tesla. And again, I don't think you can confuse or mistake the attitude that Tesla actually took with things if you understand how he did things and you read what he was saying. So that's my recommendation to everybody. If you come out from reading Tesla himself still thinking all of this, okay, everything you quoted are basically early ideas that he discarded. And we all have that, right? But also, again, it's none of Ether's, the truth is that this is like a side conversation because none of Ether's validity rests on what Tesla said. Tesla could have been the most brilliant person to have ever lived, and he could have said wrong things about some things. He was right about some things. He was wrong about some things. All people are. So the if your point is that somebody is hiding something about the ether, that's wrong. Nobody's hiding anything, and it's not about like how do you know-ness. It's about logic. Like there's no reason to hide anything that is in fact true. It's something that science does very well. So unless you think that all of science hides something, then we have a very different conversation, and we're simply not on the same page. Because I think it usually these kind of ideas come from a misunderstanding of what science is. I am on YouTube, right? But if we're talking about a person, I'm never going to take somebody's word for it about that person. I'm going to read what that person said or talk to that person. Nobody should care about what I say about somebody else. That's why I'm saying the only thing you should care about, if you really care about this, you should go and read what Tesla said. Don't pull quotes from what somebody else told you. Don't pull quotes from book. Read the whole thing. Read what somebody actually said if you're talking about that person. That's my recommendation to you. I know you shouldn't quote from Google. That's okay. Listen, if you want to understand how like true knowledge arises, and the misunderstandings arise exactly this way. You have an idea, you have a concept that you heard somewhere. It was convincing to you. It was either on a YouTube channel by somebody you trust, and it made a lot of sense to you for that reason or another. You then go and you pull specific quotes. You can do this with anything that would fit a particular way of saying things in a particular context. People are pulled out of context all the time. The only way to know something with some amount of certainty, especially if you're talking about somebody's opinions, is before you even understand their opinions, what you want to absorb is who they are. So I'll give you an example, okay? So if you're talking about somebody that, like, let's not talk about famous people who are dead, okay? Let's talk about people that are alive and you know. You have a good friend, okay? And then that friend you've known for 20 years. They have a particular character that you know that character very well because you've known it for 20 years. And then you know that in general, that person is someone who is very rigorous and they're very serious and they take themselves very seriously and that's the kind of job they do and that's how they approach everything. Friends, life, love, everything, okay? Then somebody comes along that you just met a few months ago and let's say they work with that person and they come to you and let's say they don't know you know that person and they say, you know, they're really like so not serious about anything, late for everything, and everything they say seems to be so like flimsy, all that stuff. And you go, wait a second, that's not my friend. That's weird. And then they say, no, no, that's how they are. They're convinced because that was their experience of them, right? So then you say, okay, that's weird. But because you know them for much longer, you understand that there's a character there, right? The traces. So if they would behave in these ways, it means usually something else. Something is wrong. Something is off there, right? And you always want to take this into account because people during their lifetimes doing different things in different ways, but there's always a general trend of how they behave as a person. It's who they are, okay? So when you're talking about an individual from history and you want to say, so and so said this and this and this, okay, that tells me nothing because I don't know what the context in which they said that. I don't know if they were facetious or funny or maybe an idea that we're playing with. Just because they wrote it somewhere doesn't mean anything. The context of this whole thing, if it really matters to you, it's never going to work just pulling different quotes from Google and then relying on somebody else deciphering that information for you. If it actually matters to you, it might not, I don't know, but if it actually matters to you and you really care about, you should really get into reading what the person said in many, 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 many contexts, because what it would allow you to do is the equivalent of knowing them closer, like a close friend. And usually a pattern arises, especially when it's an autobiography, because the person is literally speaking themselves. It's not somebody else writing about them, right? So you understand kind of the full gestalt of how they speak and how they think and how what kind of attitudes they tend to exhibit towards certain things. So for example, that line alone, just what I just told you, so I can put a lot of stock in knowing that a lot of the more mystical stuff that people are trying to attach to Tesla, that's how I can be certain about that. That he wouldn't be down with that, because he himself in his own writing said that he really he dislikes very strongly when people do that, when they just run with a certain outcome without actually verifying it very concretely. This does not nullify the possibility that he was also doing that sometimes without realizing it or confused about something because he's a person. But at least I know that his own attitude was, to the extent that he can see, he wants to be as rigorous as possible. And even though he was very outside of the box thinker, he was still folding all of these very, very complicated complex concepts into frames that still made sense in terms of what we already know. So these are important data points, because if anybody comes to you and says that Tesla was just this renegade that just came in and he's just, because they're trying to basically equate themselves with him to some degree. That's essentially what's happening. He's saying, I've been saying this for years, and even Tesla said this for years. No, Tesla was totally not into that. He was not into that. He didn't like that. So knowing these little truths about the person really helps. With all of that, none of this applies to the ether. So if the point was about the ether, this whole conversation, even though it was fun, it's completely irrelevant to the ether. Ether is a concept, has elements attached to it. If they don't match what we see, the ether is not real. It's not that the ether is an entity, is like somehow we're attached to it, hate it, or it's not what's happening. It's not what we're measuring. It's really simple. So you don't think magnetism is a toroidal linear vector? Wait, how did you get to this? Rich, are you for real? Wait, how did you get to... You just wrote, so you don't think, talking to me, that magnetism is a toroidal linear vector. Did I say anything about that? How did you get to this? Let me ask it this way. Have you seen a magnet under supercell? I didn't say anything about magnets. Are you having two conversations with somebody else too? Because I'm not. I didn't mention anything about magnets just now. Let me see. Okay, I'm trying to make sense of the comments and what they refer to. So 1 second. You also talked about the realness of tables and other things, but tables are not real or really existing because only the materials a table is made for really exist. Well, it really relies on what the word real means, right? In my definition, real is anything that a conscious being can experience. It doesn't matter how it come about. To call something not real because there's a more fundamental thing from which that thing arises, to me is a confused statement or way of saying the world. The only thing that makes anything real is an agent that's experiencing it. It doesn't matter if it's in the matrix, if it's some kind of an illusion, if you're a brain in a vat, if it's a Boltzmann brain, makes no difference. As long as there's in existence, there's a moment or occurrence of some agent experiencing something, that's real, and that's the only thing that's real. Everything else is just a concept, right? So if you stub your toe, that's real. If you're in the matrix plugged into something, and so you can say that the truth is that you have also an external body that's sending signals, information back and forth, but your avatar in the simulation experienced the pain. That's real. That is real. So there's no point of calling it an illusion or not real. It's like saying the only thing that's real is the laws of physics. Well, no, like the laws of arising properties are also real. What publication are you citing from Tesla? Not publication. At the moment, I was talking about his autobiography. How about dude looking at a laser that sees code? What about it? Not true. Ether is how people that are not atomists think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't define people as atomists or not atomists. I think putting people in a box of definition is just a confused way of saying the world. I don't understand the relevance of magnets to this conversation. Are you talking about the electric universe? Is that what you're referring to? Eagerly awaiting the laser to run some tests. Do you still think this is a mystery? Or are you set on it just being code to a simulation? You mean, like, am I convinced that it's a code for the simulation? Is that the question, Ambient Glass? I can make ChatGPT for free version, give me unlimited tokens to ask questions. I haven't found anyone else who can do that. Amazing. It's important to understand the difference between what is imaginary and what is not imaginary, and I believe what is real is consciousness being. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Could you build enough lasers to cover an entire wall or incorporate the laser into glasses? Into glasses? What do you mean, like amplify it through lenses, basically? How are you, Prandy? Well, you said Ken was crazy, but he does gravity experiments showing magnetism geometry. Doesn't matter. His ideas are wacky. Like of course, I mean it in like an exaggerated manner. I don't think he's like a loony bin, like that needs to be hospitalized. I'm speaking more colloquially. Like I'm saying, he's crazy. Like his ideas are just. He's very charged. He's angry, and he has these like. The way that I perceive him is kind of is very boxed in this kind of like anti attitude. It's like I'm smart, the world is dumb. That's kind of like what I'm getting from this guy. And to me, that attitude is crazy. It's because how can you possibly, like understand the world when you're close to it in so many different ways? Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot more to figure out about the code. He would not. Let me just say it simply, Richard. This is not a guy that I would come to listen to information that I would trust what his understanding of the situation, especially when it comes to people, because I don't see a person there that can understand people very well. That I'm pretty certain about. I definitely don't need to watch 30 of his videos to understand what he's saying, because if you need to listen to somebody for 30 videos to truly understand what they're saying, they're not saying it very well, first of all. Second of all, I don't need much to understand what the person is. And of course, he can have even very high technical skills, but ultimately, again, I haven't watched him saying this. He might not be saying this. I'm just saying that if you're telling me that he said that, I, I, just because I read the original person, I can tell you that's just not true. So I don't need to watch 30 videos of a person saying something about a person who just literally wrote the things to know that what they're saying about him is wrong. That's a very simple point. Okay, guys, I think it is time to catch some Z's. What's up, JC? Your laser is on your way. Good night, guys. So, all my what you know about sonoluminescence. Oh, we can talk about this tomorrow. If you want to follow me across platforms, it's Danny Goller on TikTok and on Instagram. Goller Danny on X. Laser Laser X83 on Twitch, and Dango Thoughts on YouTube. DANGO Thoughts. I also added a members program on YouTube recently, and I am constantly revising it. Added a few videos for members only, and setting up a personal Zoom call very soon, as well as there's going to be also personal lives in which we go more into specific interactions. We're going to be breaking down papers. We're going to be talking about very specific things, and I'm constantly open for suggestions, revisions to what people would like to see, so they feel like they're getting their money's worth. So yeah, I think that's all the housekeeping we need to do. I appreciate everybody's conversation. Richard, thank you so much for this interaction. That was great. And yeah, we can talk about this more in depth probably tomorrow. Thank you so much for the gift. You ready? I appreciate you guys. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Peace and love. Ciao. Thank you, Earthstrong. Appreciate you.